Frida, a young lady in her late 20s, casually swipes through her phone. She comes across a collection of news stories and video talks about Slater King, a once rich and well-known businessman who has recently fallen from favor due to a scandal related to his improper conduct. Slater, who was once celebrated for his lavish lifestyle and charm, has now seen his good name marred. Despite his damaged reputation, he is eager to clean up his act, hoping for the public's pardon and permission to keep his extravagant ways. Frida observes the interviews with a blend of interest and doubt, pondering if individuals like Slater can ever really change. Frida and her closest companion, Jess, both earn a living as cocktail servers, scraping by working at upscale events. This evening, they are on the job at a lavish soiree organized by Slater King's firm. The affair is star-studded, with attendees in designer attire, and the air is charged with the excitement of luxury and authority. As they hand out drinks, Jess discloses that she has brought along 2 sophisticated dresses for them to wear, aiming to infiltrate the party as attendees rather than mere staff. And the pair swiftly swap into their gowns and start to wander through the gathering, seamlessly fitting in with the other guests. But the situation changes when Frida's shoe heel snaps, leading her to trip and collide with a waiter, attracting unnecessary scrutiny. Opulent room, where she discovers a beautifully wrapped bottle of perfume waiting for her. Without much thought, she spritzes some on herself, relishing the delightful aroma. However, her focus is soon diverted by a maid who enters the room. The maid appears aloof and peculiar, only able to say "Red Rabbit" before she exits without another word. Frida finds this interaction peculiar, but dismisses it. Nails, despite not remembering any activity that could have caused it. Her feeling of discomfort intensifies, and she becomes more and more wary of the island and its people. One day, she attempts to give Slater back his vape pen, but he brings her back into contact with Rich, despite her clear memory of meeting him at the event. This encounter only makes her feel more uneasy. Jess begins to notice these oddities as well. She becomes wary when she observes the maid who had talked to Frida, handling the snakes on the property. The maid's actions seem strange to her, leading Jess to suspect there's more to the situation than it appears. One evening, during the party, Jess screams in agony after being bitten by a snake. Slater swiftly kills the snake and tends to Jess's injury, but the event leaves a lasting impact on her. She shares her concerns with Frida, expressing her belief that something is amiss on the island. Jess's suspicions grow when she starts experiencing nosebleeds, a symptom that appears without warning. Frida is filled with panic and rushes back to her room, where she discovers a knife concealed behind the mirror. Looking at the knife, she is scared and defenseless. Jess had recalled everything earlier, which is why Slater had commanded Stan to murder her by snapping her neck. As Frida's recollections begin to flood back, she comes to understand the full scale of the atrocities that have occurred on the island. Frida successfully frees herself from the confines of the office and divulges all she's uncovered to Sarah. Frida and Sarah devise a strategy. They encourage everyone to dance, using the commotion as a cover to strategize their next steps. As the evening unfolds, memories of Camilla and Heather also resurface. Driven by fury, Camilla wields a knife, decapitating Tom in a matter of seconds. In a similar surge of emotion, Heather tries to eliminate Vic by striking him with a chessboard, but Stan steps in, shooting Heather in the head, ending her life immediately. The situation spirals into chaos as the other guests try to comprehend the unfolding events. Stan, bound by loyalty to Slater, sets out to eliminate Frida, aiming to end her life. However, Sarah steps in, striking Stan with a rock, putting an end to his reign of fear. At the same time, the other men capture Camilla in Slater's home. In a shocking display of dominance, Slater kills Camilla by crushing her neck until she dies in the presence of others. Frida, who is hiding outside, is quickly found by Stacy, who is enraged at her for bringing back memories of the abuse she endured from Slater and the others. But Frida manages to snatch a knife and stab Stacy in the heart, killing her. Exhausted and rattled, Frida struggles to make sense of her actions before hearing more chaos outside. Lucas, the sole survivor of the group's brutal actions, starts to recall the horrific things the men did to the women. The shame and dread consume him. Yet before he can act upon it, Frida and Sarah make their way to the villa, resolved to face Slater head-on. As they draw near, Lucas greets them at the entrance, but the sound of a gunshot echoes and Lucas collapses, killed by a headshot. Upon entering, Slater is there, his self-assurance faltering as he sees the turmoil that surrounds him. A short battle ensues between Frida and Slater, Though physically stronger, Slater is no match for Frida's determination. As they clash, more memories rush into Frida's consciousness. She recalls her time on the island the year before, where she had escaped but ultimately lost her memory due to the effects of the flower toxin. She remembers the mark on her scalp from Slater's act of letting her tumble onto a boulder, and even how he bit off Vic's pinky in a last-ditch effort to protect herself. Slater, realizing he was losing his grip, began to yell, pointing fingers at everyone except himself for the mess. In a state of panic, he struck his vape pen, only to find himself lost and bewildered. Frida had ingeniously laced the vape pen with the flower toxin, making him forget the events that had just occurred. Now completely lost, Slater surveyed the room filled with lifeless bodies, a wave of panic washing over him as he attempted to comprehend the chaos. The fire rapidly engulfed the villa. Determined to stay alive and ensure Slater faced the repercussions of his deeds, Frida pulled Slater's confused body out of the inferno. Once outside, Frida seems to be engaged in a conversation with Sarah, but as the camera moves out, it's evident she's by herself, conversing with a sleeping Slater while observing the mansion go up in flames. A while later, Frida is spotted at another fancy event, this time with Slater, who has been subdued by the flower poison she's been injecting into his vape pen. Slater seems docile and submissive, barely recognizable from his previous self. In a surprising turn of events, the event's host reveals Frida as Slater's wife and the newly appointed CEO of his company. She has not only overcome the atrocities of the island, but has risen to become a formidable leader, now in charge of the company that was once under the control of the men who sought to harm her. And so, the movie concludes.